Hey guys, it's Jamie and Tomas with SavageZack Productions, and we're back tonight to tell you guys what our top 10 favorite horror films are. This is a list that we've decided we split it in half.
Yeah.
So it's each of ours.
Top 5 together that we made for a top 10.
I'm going to start it off with
There you go.
The Gate. I can feel the judgment already. It's an 80s movie that definitely had not stood the test of time. Stephen Dorff's first movie role.
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
I think maybe he's 10 in this film.
He's a child.
It has everything you could ever want. Metal music you have to play backwards. A pit to hell that you throw a dead dog in. Really bad stop motion ghoulies.
That stop motion, oh my god.
But let me tell you, my friend and I in Reno as kids, we watched that movie 15 times in a row. We were obsessed, and I have no idea why. I've seen it as an adult, don't question it, still gotta claim that as in my top 5 because it holds a spot in my heart.
I appreciate that. I can appreciate that. Alright guys, now here is what I'm going to start off with. Dead Alive. One of the goriest movies of all time. In my opinion, one of Peter Jackson's best films of all time. I know Lord of the Rings, great films. I'm more of a fan of Dead Alive, Meet the Feebles, and Bad Taste. How gory the movie is, you can't help but laugh every time someone dies. I laughed so much throughout that entire film. And I mean, like I said, it's a bloodbath. And the fact that I was laughing nonstop,
Yeah.
Hey, top
If you
5
want
for
to
sure.
laugh and see as much blood.
Up until I think at the beginning of the century, it was like the bloodiest film
movie
of all time. I mean, they use an ungodly amount of blood in that film. I can only hope to emulate that.
Stay tuned. For my next film, it's Paranormal Activity. I know there's all these found footage films out there at that time, and it'd been done to death. But to have unknown actors, budget of 10 to 15,000, shoestring budget, and they scared the shit out of everybody who watched it. This was the first time I actually felt a little nervous watching what was happening to these people. It was all because you had to fill in your own monster in your head. The perfect ghost movie.
Yeah,
You had to picture it. It was really good. I enjoyed it immensely. There were some cheesy parts like, spoiler alert, Ouija board setting on fire was a little weird, and sometimes you can question how could have they got that on footage, like in real life. If you were just filming your life, that wouldn't be
True. But you can't deny what those filmmakers did.
No.
You have to respect them as filmmakers. I mean,
it was amazing.
It was amazing.
The powdered footprints, the claws on the ground.
Yeah, that was great. And
so good, and the blanket just coming off of them. I mean, come on.
Guys, moving on to my next one. Now, I'm going to need you not to judge me on this. Scream. The 1996 Wes Craven slasher film that reinvigorated everyone's interest in the horror films in the 90s. And Wes Craven brought horror back to the forefront.
Gave us a new creature too. Scream.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, Ghostface.
Ghostface.
Yeah, he gave us Ghostface. Wes Craven's second iconic character.
You immediately recognize it, even if you weren't a fan of the film.
4 films spanning almost 20 years.
The first one was definitely different.
Absolutely. It was meta. It was self-aware. It was a satire on the whole genre. Jamie Kennedy's character, who the entire time, this is how you die in a horror film. Don't do this, don't do that. I like it because it was poking fun at the genre.
I think it's his first attempt, at finally giving us something that wasn't the tropes.
Made fun of it, you know, and it used it against themselves, and I love that. Scream, one of my favorite films of all time. Do not judge me.
My next favorite horror film is easily millions of people's favorite horror film, The Exorcist. I picked that because it's one of those ones that stuck with me as a child. The scariest part for me in that whole film is when she comes down the stairs and she's backwards.
The crab. Yeah.
Freaked me out. And then she pees on the carpet. What? And I know you would think it'd be when her head's spinning and she's telling people, mother sucks cocks in hell and shit, but that's just funny. What does that say about me?
What does that say about our friendship?
That we're really close.
Pleasure to meet you.
But Exorcist, everyone's talked about it to death.
It was considered one of the scariest films of all time.
People were like passing out and stuff and throwing up, but I loved it. It was a great plot. It was well acted. I mean, it even has its own little mystery around the set of, things happening to the actors.
Like a little curse on set.
Right?
Yeah.
It's probably on everybody's top 10 list, but The Exorcist for me.
Time for my next favorite horror film. Continue on with the horror comedy.
Always with the horror.
Always. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Tobe Hooper's second Leatherface film. I know there's a lot of you out there that don't like this film because it is such a departure from the tone of the original film. First one, extremely creepy.
Yeah.
I hold the sequel a little bit more dear to my heart for sentimental value because it was the last film my grandpa and I watched together before he passed.
Aw, a family film.
Yes. I'm going to have to thank my grandfather because I got my morbid sense of humor and my morbid this.
Why'd you gesture at me? Well, you aren't wrong.
I could thank my grandpa for that, for my love of horror. So because of that, hold it very dear to my heart. Dude, there's a fucking chainsaw fight between Dennis Hopper and Leatherface. Dueling chainsaws! How awesome is that? I mean, I get really excited about chainsaw fights, okay?
That is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty awesome.
It is, you know?
Up next for me is the miniseries and the remake of It. Now, no one could be better than Tim Curry. Yeah, of course, a legend, but Bill Skarsgård gave us a whole different beast. The creepy smile, the eyes. Now, mind you, the miniseries is from the early 90s, and it didn't stand the test of time either, but it's still really good.
And largely because of Tim Curry.
And then now you have this new one with Bill Skarsgård, and it's just...
I
couldn't believe. I went to the theater
Yeah.
so many times.
Well, we actually saw it for my birthday last year. When we walked out, I immediately said, I'm sorry, but this was the better Pennywise.
It was.
I mean, and I'm not taking away anything
Nothing
from
from
Tim
Tim
Curry.
Curry.
Nothing
We love
taken
him.
away from him. But this this Pennywise was amazing.
He was amazing.
It was great.
I loved everything about him. And the movie. The movie is great. I can't wait for the sequel.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on
Ladies and gentlemen.
to my next favorite horror film, Deathgasm.
I am so agreeing with you right now.
Horror comedy strikes again. This movie, it combines two of my favorite things of all time.
Yep.
Horror
Yep.
and heavy metal. Oh my god, the soundtrack to this movie is amazing.
You guys have probably seen the meme go around a lot of a really pretty blonde girl, very girl next door, sitting on a bench next to a guy full of corpse paint, spikes, and everything. And it's from that movie.
It's from Deathgasm. If Dead Alive had sex with Evil Dead 2, and then that baby fucked Slayer,
That's exactly
That's
the movie.
Deathgasm.
It should still be on Netflix. Go
yes.
watch it.
Yeah, it is one of the greatest movies of all time.
That movie's epic.
It's absolutely amazing from start to finish. Once it starts going, it doesn't let up. It is hilarious, guys. Please check that out.
Okay, to piggyback off of what he said about Dead
Alive.
that being your first horror film ever watched, why this is my number one, it's because I was 8 years old, I snuck out, and it was on cable television, heavily edited. It was A Nightmare on Elm Street. I loved it. I was 8 years old watching Tina climbing up the walls, being slashed up by this guy in her dreams, and I was like, this is amazing. That's what started my love of horror, is that movie. Can't lie, I was a little nervous when I went to bed. I checked under my bed and I was a little scared to go to sleep, but it was okay, obviously I made it. I had a bit of a crush on Robert Englund, not gonna lie.
Really?
A little bit.
Really?
Because
That's
I think it was
interesting.
like, you know, that fear, that weird psychological thing you get when you're scared of it, you want it.
Okay.
I need a therapist. That's my number one.
Here we go. My number one favorite horror film of all time, The Devil's Rejects. God, I love this movie. And the reason why is because it is a great story. Rob Zombie does an excellent job of telling the story of the Firefly Clan. The sequel to House of a Thousand Corpses, which that film I know divides a lot of people. A lot of people say it's too comic booky, too over the top. However, Devil's Rejects takes it back to that grindhouse feeling.
It's dirty, it's gritty.
I love those exploitation films, that grindhouse type stuff, grittiness, just evil. Devil's Rejects has one of my favorite lines of all time.
Okay.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work. It's a fucked up movie. The reason why it is such a great story, the firefighting family. They're the bad guys. They're the villains. And you have Sheriff Wydell. He's the good guy. You can't stand Sheriff Wydell, and you sympathize with the Firefly Clan.
Which is like the last thing you should do.
Exactly. And not to mention, I think it has one of the greatest endings of all time.
Which you probably shouldn't mention here.
But regardless, Devil's Rejects is it is my favorite horror film of all time and one of my favorite films of all time.
So that was our top 10. We've had plenty to go through. So it was so hard to narrow it down to even that. There is many that we love.
I had so many rewrites on this list.
Comment below what your favorite horror movies are.
We really want to hear what your favorite horror films are. I mean, we love this shit, guys.
Love it. Thanks again for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe. And we at SavageZack Productions wish you guys sweet nightmares.